These two women collapsing on the floor and screaming and crying in the court are Erika Mae Butts and Shanita Latrice Cunningham. They will spend the rest of their lives in prison for beating a toddler, Serenity Richardson, to death. They explain that they gave beatings to the child because she had a toilet accident. They did not know they would end up killing her. But how did they beat her? With a belt and plastic coat hangers. The judge remarked that there wasn't a single part of her body except the soles of her feet that wasn't harmed. After the little girl became unresponsive, they put bleach under her nose and put ice on her to try to make her come back to life. But by the time the medics arrived, the child was already dead.
The court finds it appropriate that each be sentenced to the State Department of Corrections for a period of life. You will get credit for any of the time that you've served.
In the court video, when the sentence was called out, the two women both just fell to the floor and started having panic attacks and difficulty breathing. They were in absolute shock and could not understand that they would have to live the rest of their lives in prison. They were so out of control that they had to be put into chairs and wheeled out of the courtroom. This is Joshua Phillip, and he murdered an innocent 8-year-old girl, Maddie. He got a life sentence without parole, but now there is possibility of being granted parole in 2023.
Josh Phillips was sentenced to life in prison when he was just 15 years old. When he was 14, he committed the murder of 8-year-old Maddie Clifton.
This second chance for Phillip has come about only because of a change in the law, as he was just 14 when he did the murder.
May God bless you and heal your wounds as much as possible. Thank you, Your Honor.
In court, while making a statement, Phillips can be seen reacting emotionally. He seems to be holding back tears and struggling to speak. The victim's family say it was just an act because showing emotions and remorse would persuade the judge to grant him parole.
Why should the defendant be allowed to live normally while Maddie lies in cold in a grave?
The mother of the victim said that he should not be allowed to get out of the prison for the rest of his life. How exactly did Phillip carry out this murder, and what led him to commit such a crime? Keep watching this video, as this story is one hell of a roller coaster ride. Phillips was known as a quiet, well-behaved child in school, but he had quite a few skeletons in his closet. As a child, he had been emotionally abused by his father, who was an alcoholic and had a very strict style of parenting. Phillips continuously lived in fear of his father and was always tiptoeing around him, trying his best not to upset him. Phillips was not even allowed to have friends over, as that would lead to his father going into a fit of rage. When Phillips was 14, he became friends with one of his neighbors, Maddie, who was 8. Once, when his parents weren't home, Maddie came to his house to play. Phillips and Maddie went out to play with a baseball, and Maddie got accidentally hit in the eye. She started bleeding and crying. Phillips, out of fear of how his father would react, panicked and didn't know what to do. So he dragged Maddie inside the house and took her into his room. Maddie kept crying, so Phillip grabbed a baseball bat and kept hitting her with it until she stopped. By that time, his parents came back and Phillips acted normal and went out of his room to sit with his family. Later, when he returned, he was shocked to find that Maddie was still whimpering in pain and still had life in her. Phillips could have made a better choice and tried to save her then, but he went into the kitchen, grabbed a knife, and stabbed Maddie several times, making sure that he killed her this time. He then proceeded to hide her broken body under the mattress of his waterbed and went about his life as usual. For the next 7 days, Phillip would continue to sleep on the corpse, which was stuffed under the waterbed. Soon, Maddie's family realized that she hadn't come home and reported her missing. Maddie was nowhere to be found. A week later, while cleaning Phillip's room, his mother noticed something odd, like a sock sticking out from under the bed. Upon pulling it, she realized that the mattress was sealed with duct tape. She found that odd, and as she continued to pull the sock out, she was left horrified. She found Maggie's body, cold and dead. She frantically rushed out to find a police officer. The area was sealed and the parents were taken to the police station. Phillips was in school at that time, but was called in the office to be taken by 2 police officers, who then proceeded to investigate him. During the interrogation, Phillip confessed to committing this horrific act. Phillip was sentenced to life without parole in 1999, again in 2017 and 2019. The last is to be reviewed this week. The family of the victim gave heartbreaking statements. The victim's sister said that his best friend had been mercilessly taken away. Phillip's last statement was disregarded by the family, saying that Phillips had no remorse. This is Jalal Smith Riley, and he murdered Porshia Brooks in 2013.
The defendant served a term of life without parole as to count.
While Brooks and her boyfriend were sitting in their car in the parking lot, Riley came to the car and pulled her boyfriend out in an attempt to rob him. When he realized that he didn't have anything worthy of robbing, he shot him and then proceeded to shoot Brooks as well. Brooks died after 3 days and her boyfriend was injured.
This is somebody that feels genuine remorse. This is somebody that thinks about this every day, and he knows that he can't go back in time and undo what he did.
He pleaded guilty but then requested a change. The judge denied his request and now he is facing life sentence without the possibility of parole.
Or defendant served a term of life without parole as to count 4 for the offense of attempted murder.
When the sentence was passed by the judge, Riley lost control and cried. He sat down in shock and was extremely disappointed with the outcome. The police officers helped him up and Riley then started pleading with the judge.
He took that from me. He took it from all of us. He ruined my life. He not only killed her, but he killed me.
During the trial, Brooks' mother brought her ashes alone and said, "He ruined my life. He not only killed her, but he killed me, mentally, emotionally. He killed my identity as a mother of 3. We are left with nothing, and that's because of him." Brooks' sister also came to the stand and amidst tears and emotion said,
I have to deal with life without Porshia, so he should deal with life without parole.
These 2 women are Glenndria Morris and Lashirley Morris.
It is an awful story. We have just learned a woman accused of beating a 3-year-old for taking a cupcake has pleaded guilty in his murder.
They killed a 3-year-old toddler Mason by beating him to death because he took a cupcake without their permission. Glenndria was the legal guardian of Mason. She had Mason in her custody because his own mother was in jail and had subjected her children to immense abuse and torture. According to court documents, Lashirley Morris started to beat Kawan Mason with a baseball bat after he ate a cupcake without her permission on October 21st. He had injuries on his arms, head, legs, and stomach. Those injuries ultimately killed him. Both sisters had repeatedly changed their stories in court. They first said that the child was choking on a cupcake and the ambulance took too long to come to the apartment. Next, she said that the child choked first, but then was fine. He was talking and breathing. He was put to bed, and when they tried to wake him up, he did not respond. But the evidence suggested that he died due to blunt force trauma. Lies don't live for long, and truth catches up fast. These heartless women faced the punishment that they rightfully deserved. When the grandmother came into court, she pleaded to the judge to not reduce the bond for the perpetrators. She said,
I had 6, and it's unfair. He was 3 years old. What can a baby do 3 years old to make you beat him to death?
This man is Elise Nelson Ortiz Nieves, and he was convicted in the beating and death of a 4-year-old boy.
You beat this child, you brutalized this child, and you tortured this child.
The judge called him a monster. He further added, "You are the lowest form of human life that I've been able to observe or see. You are a monster and quite frankly evil. What you did was sickening and disgusting. You should never be allowed out of prison." Ortiz Nieves was looking after his girlfriend's children while she was out of the house. The police found the boy actively dying on the kitchen floor. Autopsy showed that the boy had internal bleeding, which was caused by an abdominal tear. The experts say that this injury couldn't have been caused by any of the other children but by an adult. The boy had injuries to the top of his head, lower back, and buttocks. His ribs were also broken but healing, hinting that the boy had been subjected to abuse before as well.
Some of the bruises were in the shape of a belt buckle.
I ain't gonna let you sit here say no crazy shit about me, man.
He had the audacity to say, "I'm not gonna sit here and let you say crazy stuff about me, man." crazy stuff? That was the truth about what he did to that boy. Ortiz Nieves reacted very emotionally at the sentencing. He started pulling away from the police officers. There was aggressive pushing and pulling between Ortiz Nieves and the officers. Thank you for watching this video. If you are enjoying our content, show us some love and hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe to our channel to keep watching shocking courtroom stories.